When we talk about responsible AI, we developed a framework which includes 6 pillars, and AI need to be secure and safe, fair, transparent, accountable, and privacy preserved and sustainable. So using those key pillars and to just make sure that AI really deliver core benefit to benefit the human, to benefit the society, and also the risk are being managed. We identified the 3 main gaps to mainstream responsible AI, which include the awareness gap, the talent gap, and also the tooling gap.
Is AI the key to solving global challenges? And are we ready for its impact? Today on the Care to Lead podcast, we're going to find out. I'm Cynthia Corsetti, your host. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Xiaochen Zhang, President of FinTech4Good and Chief AI Officer and Executive Director of AI 2030. Xiaocheng's work focuses on harnessing technology to promote social good. So welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So can you start by telling us about your journey and what led you to do what you're doing?
Absolutely. In the past 20-some years, and all my work really evolved around 3 things: emerging technology, social impact, and also innovation. So I see these 3 components really just work very well together. The impact side is always, say, here are some problems that need to be solved. And then naturally that emerging technology is the base where that's, you can imagine new solutions will just make, it easy for people to solve problems. And of course that's, you have technology. If you don't have this model, if you don't have the new way to deliver, naturally that's, the emerging technology and problem don't meet together, without the innovation. So I think these 3 things always just work together really well. I'm working in an organization like World Bank, United Nations, AWS, and my own, company, FinTech4Good. And we naturally see a lot of really powerful problems that if those problems are not being solved, addressed, and a lot of population are just being impacted negatively. So of course, you see technology can create solutions, but also technology can create problems. So while that's, we work on technology-based solution trying to solve problem, we also try to mitigate the potential risks that's, create for the society.
So first, tell me a little bit about FinTech4Good. What is your mission and what does your company do?
Yeah, and that was, after I left the World Bank, where that's, interestingly, that's if you work for a larger organization and then naturally that you have, a lot of resources, but in the meantime, you have a lot of process where that's, after I left World Bank, I said, let me take World Bank's mission, because World Bank solving really the mission is really touching my heart. So I took the World Bank mission as the problem that I'm going to solve. And then using a startup venture building model to just really, identify, connect the problem with the solution provider through a venture building model, and then bring the right solution to the market, solve problems such like poverty reduction, financial inclusion, and gender equality, and those kind of problems. And in the past, we have, build different ventures through incubation, acceleration. We also organize events, bring community together, and we do research, help to just surface the problem and also educate the market.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell me more about AI 2030.
AI 2030 is a new initiative which just, has around over a year of history. And after we have seen, mostly it's the Gen AI becoming, a very important phenomenon, and where that we see, the potential of AI can scale not only the efficiency, but also the potential problem. And then this is becoming, a concern for many people in my circle who share the same concern. And we say, let's do something. Then, AI 2030 is really just the initiative coming out of those concerns. And then our goal is try to mainstream responsible AI by 2030. Mainstreaming here to be defined as by 2030, and AI and responsible AI as two categories disappear, and any AI, all AI need to be responsible. And then when we talk about responsible AI, we developed framework, which includes 6 pillars, and AI need to be secure and safe, fair, transparent, accountable, and privacy preserved and sustainable. So using those key pillars and to just make sure that AI really deliver core benefit to benefit the human, to benefit the society, and also the risk are being managed. And we identified the 3 main gaps to mainstream responsible AI, which include the awareness gap, the talent gap, and also the tooling gap. So a lot of our programs are really trying to just fill those gaps. We know that, mainstream responsible AI is a larger mission, and then we as a young organization cannot do that, ourselves. So our approach is really, we want to build the largest member-based responsible AI community by empowering our members. They take responsible AI leadership. So then we help them to achieve those, mission goals they define, and then we can just achieve our mission jointly. So that's basically our methodology.
So obviously, AI is only as ethical as the user, right? Mm-hmm. So there can be a lot of bad actors who get their hands on AI and use it inappropriately. What are some safeguards that you can put into place or that are being put into place to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, and we have to basically, we treat it at 3 different levels. And one is that, we take the bad actor as the lowest level. And because a lot of now is like, most people are still good actors. But the good actors can also do bad things. Our top priority is actually helping the good actor to do it in the right way. There's a lot of good actor, at the board level, at the executive level, and then they don't really have the tools, awareness, and if AI is not being done responsibly, and they are not aware of the consequences finally, and also what are the tools available to them to reducing costs, reducing technicality, and what kind of, the new talent needed, and then which they don't have access to. A lot of them are not being allocated to the topic enough, and finally they deliver a product with the best intent, but actually, the consequence may just really harm their customer and harm the society. So then our first and most important focus is really for the good actors, and how can just we empower the good actor to really take the right action.
So in order to justify the need for conscientiousness when using AI, can you talk about some of the consequences that could happen even with a responsible and good actor, as we say?
Yeah, absolutely. And, go back to our responsible AI framework. AI can be delivered in the way which is not sustainable, where that's, we already seen that AI model training and is going to just have a significant climate change related consequence by 2030. And then we have, a significant amount of greenhouse gas emission will come from, large language model training. So how can we just develop alternative models which can achieve the same type of result, but without just really, using a lot of low computing power, or, from the computing side, that's how can we just reducing that? So I think that a lot of research can go there. This is, one part of, if they are not aware, and although they are really, doing great things because they are, just make, improve efficiency of everyone's life, but then they already are doing harm to our environment. The second pillar, when you just look at the privacy part, and a lot of us are benefiting from using generative AI related application already. But when you just look at, how the model are being trained, many of the data which are training those models are being used a lot of time that without authorization, and people for their data are being used are not being compensated. And also that's, people who are using AI generative AI applications, and don't have the awareness of the potential privacy related problem, that then they enter a lot of their sensitive data into that. And then you just provide your, private data to billion people and without any, specific treatment and all that. And if, on this side of the, horizon where that's the product owner didn't really just, because the user have not developed that awareness. But if you are owning that product, have not just put any of the red tape around it, and naturally that's, you expose your customer base data to, unnecessary consequence. And then similar to fairness, where that's, you use AI related, for example, bots to make a decision, provide a better service 24/7. But, think about AI-based decision, and where that's, we already see many examples, and certain groups with a certain identity are being just treated unfairly, and then they have declined of loan, decline of insurance claim, and the different services that they are entitled only because that they have certain title. AI model are trained and in the way to which, treat them differently. So there are a lot of those kind of consequences. If you really are not aware of that, you just say, I have access to this, foundational model, or I have this set of data without, treat the data before, identify what the problem within the data. You just bring that data directly into the model to train your AI model. And then, in this process, maybe you did everything right. But then your AI model itself is still are biased and have all the problem. So there's a lot of those consequences which are unintentional, but can really have really unintentional, consequences to your customer, to the society. Yeah.
So as a person who I work with executives every day, and one of the things that I know is difficult for them is keeping up with training, because AI is evolving so fast. And even when you are trying to train your employees and make them aware and give them the knowledge they need to use AI responsibly and to protect privacy and do all the things they need to do, tomorrow it can all be different. So what do you have to say to executive leaders who are trying to keep their employees up to speed on this rapidly evolving technology?
Yeah, and I think there are different strategies which are important. And then, for us, we see, even for executive, they need to manage up and manage down. The upside is basically that, they allow the executive report to board of directors. And we, in the boardroom, a lot of, the board members are not really aware of, responsible AI consequences and all that. Then they will be asked by the board or, broadly by the shareholder to do things in a, potentially not the right way. So how they can just educate their board members and the shareholders. And I think that is a very important piece of the puzzle, where, we, for example, developed a course called Responsible AI for Board of Directors. Naturally, because we have exactly, I'm also on a daily basis, have conversation with the executives. Then they just come back to, a lot of board directors really, are not aware of that. And then now they push them to the direction, which may not be the necessary align with the responsible AI direction. So I think educating the board of directors is, part of their job. And then broadly, educating their shareholders through awareness related campaign and all that. Make sure that their stakeholders align with the right, path they have chosen. That is, managing up. If we see that the director and the shareholder are up. And then managing down, that is mostly, from their technical staff and middle management and even, the frontier, type of workers. There, that's, the number one thing is that, you will never be able to just have everyone educated for everything. For each job role, and then different job role will be impacted by AI in a very different way. And I think the number one, we always just ask, executive, number one is that you adopt a responsible AI framework. By adopting a framework, naturally, you as an organization change your way of thinking. And then you can translate that, framework into your operation, into your process. And naturally that's people in your, the staff already have a way of thinking by adopting, a framework. Another action, so that's why we have the responsible AI pledge. As you as a company can pledge something and your staff naturally can align that way, that it's easy learning. The second piece is, really around the training side. The training side is, basically role-based training, where that's, I gave you an example of a compliance officer from people in the financial service industry. They have been, any financial institution have a department who is, leading the compliance. And, you don't need to train the compliance people to just do the job completely differently. AI only impact, compliance in, for example, 90% of their jobs are the same. Only 10% are different. So if you can just find out what are that 10% from working collaboratively with third party or invest internally, and then you identify what are the 10%. It's very easy for you to allocate that 10% rather than say that's reinventing everything to say you are a different professional doing a different job now. So that's, the second strategy. And the third strategy is really, around just join different efforts and with your peers. Because as what you said, AI is evolving fast, and naturally, even as a large organization, and still that you don't know what your peers, your competitors are doing, and then tomorrow there will be something new introduced. So by joining some industry related alliance or group, and there that's naturally on a daily basis, regularly, that you hear from others what others are doing, and then you are informed. Not necessarily that you have to get yourself involved in everything, but just, being informed is so important as of now. What is, happening now, what is happening in the future. Then you bring back those, information, and then to just compare that information with your existing plan and see that's, where are the gaps? And if there are, specific gaps, it's very easy for you to just allocate the proper resources accordingly.
What, in your opinion, size of a company should have a chief AI officer on board?
I would think definitely it's more, middle or larger, organization. So it will be a wasteful, or at least, although it's important, but in general, it's very challenging, or a lot of smaller companies don't have the resources to have, chief AI officer or chief responsible AI officer. The reason why the larger organization need a chief AI officer, that's another thing that's, we propose to enterprise, where that you establish your responsible AI governance structure as one of the pledge. It is very important where that's, folks who are in the business side. You have folks who are in the operational side. You have folks who are in the compliance or more protecting, the functional side. Naturally, that's if, you are a small company and you probably see that one person maybe oversee everything. So, you have an additional AI officer that is maybe, just replication of someone who we already put this person in place. But for a larger organization, because of certification, and then you have really different individual, is managing a very different function. Those functions may even not talk to each other in a very effective way. And now AI is going to transform your organization across different departments. And those boundaries you set up in the past, which becoming the boundary of, or barrier from learning, from just adoption, from, knowledge exchange and all that. And so by having a chief AI officer or chief responsible AI officer, naturally you need somebody who sit there and to break those, boundaries that you just, established before, and to reflect that AI is transforming your core business model. You need to have somebody who is, having that position to oversee your most important assets. That's, your new business model based on AI. So that itself is critical.
Do you think that there's a specific leadership skill that's necessary in this world of AI that's maybe different or just more, it has to be stronger than it did before?
Yeah, and number one thing, I think the interdisciplinary. This is something that before that, I also see a lot of, company are not doing the thing in the right way. It's very clear that, a chief AI officer or chief responsible AI officer, you need somebody who really have the very good foundational, knowledge of data. And you also need someone who really just understand about, of AI models. Then you also need someone who have a deep knowledge about ethics, compliance. And you also need somebody who really have that customer related knowledge. So then that, your AI can serve, your customers. So when you just look at that, to compare with the current job roles and, you don't have such a person who have this broader skill set and who are trained academically that way, or who, in the professional life have that, pass in the past. So you really need to be very intentional to curate this kind of a new type of leader in your organization. One key, fact I always share with people is that currently when you just build an AI model, you have typically, for example, 30 engineers. Then you have one person or zero person who know about ethics. Then you are building an AI system. Naturally, you know that whether this system will be ethical or not. Because of lack of expertise, naturally, even they have the good intention, but because of lack of, capability or skill set, and naturally that will impact your final product. And then that's only one product. But if you just move it above at the corporate level, and where that's, if this leader who just doesn't, have very great skills in engineering, but, have a next to zero understanding of compliance or ethics, and you already know that's what this direction could be. Or if this is engineering person who has a very limited understanding of customer problem or customer experience, naturally your AI system or core business model will also suffer. So that's why this person really need to be interdisciplinary, have a very broader, set of experience. And then that I think is a very unique new challenge for the companies. Yeah.
What would you say to a person who is just thinking about, their career progression and they're thinking, is AI ethics or AI technology, like being that compliance person in an organization as a career path? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would think that is, it depends on what's the ambition, right? Some organization, they have a pathway for new idea to emerge. Then you can create your own space. If you work in such an organization, and I think just you can create your own GD, and then there I think this because this is probably as a problem faced by almost all company, and then if your company gave you that flexibility, create your own job description, and then to define and how to just help the company to take this challenge, and then, link your strengths from the past, identify the gaps where that's you want to go, and then be that person, lead that, then bring people who you need in terms of the expertise, and then surround you, and then build a team to just, get ready for the next move. I think, that is for those who have flexibility. Then in those organizations, you don't have that. You have a very specific job role, and which, you are paid to do today. And you are not supposed to do something differently. I think there are, two different strategy. Because again, AI 2030 is a member-based organization, and we have around 600 members. With many of our members belong to this category, who have a very defined, leadership role. But this role has nothing to do with the future. It's all about the past, where that's, you are just overseeing this, business, and which has, great customer base now. You need to solve customer problem now, but nothing to do with the future. and you see a different future. And then, the reason why they join AI 2030 is that they want to expose themselves to something beyond what their current job role is, asking for, and then get themselves exposed to new ideas, new, skill set, and also the new, network. And then that's you get yourself really, ready and expose yourself to the future while that you continue to just perform well for your current job.
So you've shared with our listeners a great deal of knowledge. I'm curious, though, if there's something you can share about yourself that's a fun fact that our listeners might just be interested in knowing.
Fun fact, I think for me, probably is really about my family. Everyone, a lot of your audience probably are professional and who manage a busy life, who have great ambition, and then are impact many others' life. But in the meantime, that's, you have a family, you have your own children, and you also need, have great impact to your own family. So I'm constantly just, trying to find a balance between the two. I think that's, being a father just gave me so much more new perspectives in life, where that's, I'm constantly educated by my daughter, by my son, who one is 4.5, one is 2.5. On a daily basis, that, there are other things which are important, or you can think, the same, you have professionally trained way of thinking, and then they are really out of box thinking. And yesterday was funny that when both of my children walked off the baby shark towel after they just, left the bath, then they started screaming and crying. And then, I was just saying, because of this, that I will take this towel away. None of you are going to use that. Then my daughter came to me, and so instead of taking away from us, why not you buy another one so that both of us can have a baby shark towel? So
that's funny.
It's when you are at the moment really just stressing, I need to use a different plate to give them a way of behave. Then they say, you actually can change your behavior because it's not a problem.
That's great. That's great. So what we learn from little ones, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Xiaochen, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Awesome. And I also just want to add to your show, mention that, we have upcoming some events in London in September and in Silicon Valley in October. And all your audience are welcome to join us. It's called AI 2030 Summits.
And we will make sure that those links and how to register for those things will be posted with the show notes for you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, leaders who care to lead. Until next time.